US-India trade deal is finally announced, and in a major breakthrough, New Delhi and Washington have announced a historic agreement aimed at ending months of tariff tensions. Now, under the deal, the steep tariffs imposed on Indian exports will now be sharply reduced and slashed to 18%. That's a drastic reduction of tariffs, Pranav.
About 32%, yeah, absolutely. But you know, Shiva, we need to look at it in two ways. One is obviously it's a statement coming from the United States, Donald Trump. He's said that India will be buying about 500 billion worth of goods from America. He said that Prime Minister Modi has said buy American. He has said that India has stopped buying oil from Russia. So these are all claims coming from Washington. And New Delhi's response has been extremely measured. Just congratulating him and then underlining that there may have been some movement on the.
But we haven't said any word. There's no word from the Indian side on the oil issue, the Russian oil issue, Pranav. There has been no confirmation. It's just Donald Trump praising himself, patting his own back, one event after the other. What do you say?
Well, absolutely. In fact, India has not commented at all. If you saw the statement that came from Indian side, there is no mention of oil. There is no mention of either stopping of buying Russian oil or buying of Venezuelan oil. In fact, as we were talking to some of the experts yesterday, immediately after Donald Trump announced, Venezuela does not have the capacity to cater to the requirement that the Indian industry or Indian oil requirement on a daily basis. So Venezuela is not ready. On what basis is Donald Trump actually making a statement? We need to wait and see how that actually unfolds.
I think that's more of a businessman speaking here when he speaks on Venezuela and buying oil from Venezuela. All right, we have a guest joining us, Kirti Updhyaya, founder Indus Tech from Washington, D.C. Kirti, thanks a lot for joining us. Let's have her on screen. Kirti is joining and she'll be speaking on this India-US trade deal, the historic trade deal. Kirti, thanks a lot for sparing time for this issue. Kirti, what will be your first reaction to this, what we call a historic trade deal between India and US? The tariffs have been slashed drastically to 18%. A good move.
Well, thanks for having me. I think this is definitely the momentum that all of us here were hoping for. And it goes on to show that the US-India relationship is so important to both sides. And despite the challenges that we've had, not just now, but throughout the history of our relationship in the past 2 decades or so, we always find a way to work together. But I will say, as excited as all of us are on finalizing the broad contours of the phase 1 deal, I think the devil will be in the details. 2 points that I'm sort of waiting for. I'm waiting for a joint statement or an executive order to provide more clarity, firstly, on really the number. As you'll see that President Trump's tweet mentions that the tariff reduction on reciprocal tariff will be from 25% to 18%. He hasn't really mentioned whether the 25% Russian tariffs will go away. And I know that there's a lot of chatter and there are a lot of statements coming in. I also heard Ambassador Gore on one of the channels, and he also said that while 18% is the final number, it could not be immediate. So if I were to sort of dissect and analyze this, I would say that maybe it's going to be iterative. So if we are looking at 43% immediate reduction, and then a further 25% reduction. And secondly, I think it'll be interesting to see whether these are stacked or unstacked tariffs. Happy to talk about that more if you guys are interested. But I think great news. Very exciting day here in D.C., but still awaiting details.
Definitely great news to begin with. At least things are changing as of now. Pranav, development is coming. We should take it positively initially, but definitely the devil lies in the details is also very important.
Kirti, in fact, I want to understand from you, we just waking up here in India to this great story that unveiled overnight, but then how are US newspapers, how are US headlines reacting to this decision from the president? This announcement from the president, I would say.
Well, I think there's been a really positive coverage all around, right? A trade deal is always something that everybody looks forward to. Initial reactions are, though, as you've said, quite surface level because we're still awaiting broader details. But I think overall it's been very positive. Like I said, it's been one of the, at least for all of us who are working on the relationship in the US-India space, it's been a very exciting day and the sort of momentum that we were looking for in the relationship. Because, I know that the relationship has had its challenges, especially in the last year, although the defense relationship, which I particularly look at, it was sort of, there was business as usual there, but on the broader, especially on the trade issue, there were some challenges. So I think everybody is happy that we're seeing some momentum there.
And what's changed overnight? I mean, from what we started about 6-7 months ago when India was asking for a certain percentage as far as tariffs are concerned, and now we have Trump waiting for 6 months and coming back to the same number. What really changed overnight within the past about a few days?
I don't think it's something that's overnight. I hate to give you a very dry answer here, but this whole trade deal saga has been a very long saga.
But
right?
no, Kriti,
So
but won't you mention the India-EU trade deal? That must surely have had an impact on this hurry in going for an India-US trade deal, because the initial reactions that were coming from US was that you are, by having a trade deal with India, you are financing a war against yourself. Such statements were coming, and now they are having a trade deal with India. So it was that was also a trigger point. The India-EU trade deal, the free trade agreement, one of the biggest deals ever, mother of all deals, as they say.
As tempting as it is to link the both, I think it'll be undermining India-US relationship and India-EU relationship to sort of, reduce these two deals to being interconnected. I think the India and EU deal is a great successful deal. I agree with you on that, but it's been in the making for many years, and the US-India deal has been in the making for many years. So if I'll give you a quick history, we used to call it the ever-elusive US-India deal, and the first time that we really came very close to signing this deal was actually under the first President Trump's presidency, when Robert Lighthizer was the USTR. That time there were talks of a mini trade deal, and we came very, very close to signing a trade deal. But, we've always had certain disagreements, certain healthy disagreements, and especially as we're looking, they're complex countries, complex trade negotiations. So at least I'm happy to see that after 19 years of negotiations, that's how many years it's been since we first had the thought of a US-India trade deal. And from President Trump's first administration, where we came very close to signing a mini trade deal, we're finally today at a stage where we have not yet a full trade deal, but the broad contours of the phase one of a US-India trade deal.
Kriti, also, how long will we have to finally wait for this everything turning into numbers? Because the nitty-gritties are not out, the details aren't out. Till how long will we have to wait?
Well, I am encouraged by the fact that the EAM, Dr. S. Shankar, is in town. Now, he's in town in Washington, D.C. for the Critical Minerals Group meeting. But I'm sure that they're also going to discuss details about the trade deal, even though he's the EAM and trade deal is handled by the Commerce Ministry. So I'm expecting a joint statement soon. How soon? I wish I could tell you, because I'm waiting for that as well. And then finally, when we'll actually see the real numbers would be in the executive order, which would be signed by President Trump and go into the Federal Register. So I'd keep my eyes open for two things. One is the joint statement between India and the US on this trade deal, which I expect should come soon. And then I would keep my eyes open for the executive order, because unless we have that executive order, this trade deal really isn't real, right? It's just an announcement right now. But having said that, I think the intent is there, the direction is right.
Yes.
Now it's just time to execute this.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Kriti. And the